Welcome to EWTN News live coverage of Pope Francis in the United States. I'm Raymond Arroyo in New York. In a few moments, we'll bring you the Holy Father's visit with school children and families of migrants from Our Lady Queen of Angels in East Harlem. Now, I will be joined shortly by the papal posse, but I have a very special guest who is joining us. Before we bring you the Holy Father's visit, everybody's in place there. I'll tell you a little more about that event, but first, I have to introduce my special guest. When you have a pope, you have to bring Jesus in. So, Jim Caviezel is joining us. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Good to see you, Raymond.
Now, you've been shooting here. Of course, you're a person of interest here in town. You are going to be taking part tomorrow in something very special that I'm not sure if a lot of people even realize.
Yeah, actually, I'm speaking a little piece from Pope John Paul. It's like the hope of humanity is by way of the family.
Oh, wow.
And so I do a little piece there. Mark Wahlberg is hosting the show, and but Archbishop Schule.Our asked us to come in and help him out. And
so you'll be in Philly at the World Meeting of Families?
The World Meeting of Families, yeah.
Wow. Now, why did you decide to do this? I mean,
it's my church.
I know, but I know you've got you've got a busy schedule. You've got things to do.
Well, it got busy today. The traffic, we couldn't work because of the Holy Father's here, you know.
Oh, is he in town? I hadn't noticed. I've only been covering him for 12 days, from Cuba to here. Now we're going to Philly. Has it really? I mean, they've closed off a lot of the streets. The security presence is unbelievable. Did that stop production of Person of Interest in town?
In some places.
Yeah.
We had to change. I mean, it's huge change everywhere. Security and
So they just called off the shoot today?
Well, no, I got today off. I was lucky. It's very rare, but.
A little rehearsal day for the World Meeting of Families. No gunplay, I hope, at the World Meeting.
My family's coming in tonight, so I'll pick them up at the airport, and they'll be joining me. And they've never seen a pope before. My wife has, my children haven't.
They're looking forward, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Great. Well, we will catch up with you in Philadelphia. Thanks for being here.
You look great.
I look well, makeup and you know, getting burned all day
No,
in the sun.
you look like you did 20 years ago.
Oh, stop it, please. You're making me blush. Jim Caviezel, thank you. And we will catch up with Jim tomorrow. He'll be at the World Meeting of Families. We are, of course, going to go there this evening following Pope Francis. Jim, you can help me throw to this little segment. I'm going to show you this segment. This is live footage inside the East Harlem School. They're awaiting the arrival of Pope Francis. Any moment we'll bring you the full coverage. Has the Holy Father pulled up yet? I haven't seen the Pope Mobile, at least from this vantage point. There's the interior of the room. And you see Mayor de Blasio was in there. Many parents are gathered. Now, these are apparently parents of migrants. 20% of this school is African American, and the other 80%, or 70% rather, is Hispanic. And you'll see that reflected, I'm sure, as some of the folks here reveal themselves and share their stories with the Pope. Now, there's a little peculiar spin here. The Pope is going to be going into a classroom, I guess, where they're teaching the children, and I would think they were teaching them, you know, catechism or something. They're actually teaching them about climate change. So the ongoing theme of the visit, the Pope's emphasis on climate change and environment, continues to be underscored, and even here at this East Harlem School. Following this, there will be a papal parade. Jim, are you going to get a spot on the papal parade route? This will be like Thanksgiving, you know, the Macy's parade, where you kind of wait, you pack in, you wait for the big moment. They're having a parade in Central Park, which begins right after this event. So there are already thousands of people lined up. In fact, they had to get in place at 11 a.m. to get into Central Park. So quite a day. It really has snarled. I mean, you're here all the time. You're basically a New Yorker now when you're not in LA. Has it changed movement about the city in the last few days, having the Pope here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it kind of reminded me of the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's right.
And actually, in some ways, because they know that the Holy Father is going to be going around, a lot of people just stayed home.
Stayed home from work.
So a lot of the congestion isn't
really?
Eliminated.
You see, that happened in D.C. Everybody thought it was going to be gridlock, so all the federal workers stayed home.
Yeah.
It was actually a beautiful day. We walked, it was fantastic. Restaurants were empty, good for me. And I wasn't going to the papal events. I was watching them on TV like all of you at home. So this is the way to go. Anyway, any moment we will expect the Holy Father here in East Harlem. at Our Lady Queen of Angels School, and they're going to be teaching children about protecting the planet. I'm going to let Jim Caviezel go. I know you have to go off and protect the planet and gather your family so you can take part in the World Meeting of Families. We will catch up with you tomorrow. You'll come see us, I hope, after your big moment.
Sure.
All right. Great to see you.
Great to see you too,
Thank
Raymond.
you, my friend. Blessings. We will continue, and again, we just await this. We will continue to monitor the situation, and the papal posse will be joining me now, stepping into position. And the interior of Our Lady Queen of Apostles School, Queen of Angels School. And the Pope is going to meet with workers and clients from Catholic charities. And this school is physically connected to a parish, but the parish was closed. But they continued to keep the school running, and the idea was so that the church could share and support the school to continue to serve the migrant families and the downtrodden who turn to this school and rely on it for education. So the Archdiocese made the decision to keep the school open. And in a moment, we have another very special guest joining. This is a great lineup here. We get our Lord and we get the governor. It's pretty good. We are now joined by.
I wouldn't put myself in the same sentence.
Well, hey,
Raymond.
We are delighted to have you, Governor George Pataki, sitting with us. And you know, I was thinking of you a little earlier, Governor, when we watched the Pope go to the Ground Zero
Yes.
Memorial, a very moving event. You were governor of this state when this real evil crime befell this important city. Your thoughts on watching the Pope going there today?
You know, you hit it right. It was an evil act against innocent people, and it represented the worst of humanity, and yet the response of New Yorkers and Americans represented the best of humanity. And when we made the decision to have that memorial and museum at Ground Zero, this is exactly what we were hoping for. That decades later, generations later, someone like the Pope could go and evoke the memory of those we lost and the courage of our response. And for him to bring his faith, his belief in humanity to Ground Zero in that way was very moving for me.
Yeah. Were you there today? Did you make it down to the memorial?
I could not go today. No.
You couldn't go. But you, of course, have been down there to that incredible marker, I think, of remembrance, and just to see it and to realize this is hallowed ground for so many, not only New Yorkers, Americans who lost thousands of lives.
It is.
And
it is. And when the Port Authority's first plan was to build office towers there, I was the governor. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, this isn't going to be. We're going to have a global competition. Yes, we have to rebuild. Yes, we have to reclaim our economic power. But the centerpiece has to be a memorial. It has to be a memorial that tells the story of September 11th, the magnitude of the loss. It has to tell the courage that with which New Yorkers and Americans responded. And I know there were a lot of doubters as we were going through this, but I said then, I have no doubt if we do this right, it will be the most visited site in North America. And today it is, and it's becoming even more visited. And my goal was that future generations who weren't even born on September 11th can understand the magnitude of the horror. You
know, Governor Pataki, as I watched, as I went to that memorial the first time, my sons wanted to see it because, of course, they weren't even born when this happened. And I took them, and they wanted to go, you know, they wanted to see the Statue of Liberty, they wanted to see Central Park, and they wanted to see the Ground Zero Memorial. When we got there, it totally transformed them. I mean, they became very reverent and solemn. It really is sacred ground. You can feel it. And I want to move to the papal visit here in New York. I mean, it's beautiful. The Pope went there to Ground Zero. But having the Pope in this city and this Pope, your reaction to what you've seen in the last few days?
It's been inspirational. It's united New Yorkers, and I think his speech to Congress really has united Americans. That you know, with the fact that we're all human beings, we're all God's children. We have a common future, a common destiny, and too often in politics people forget that. But the Pope is reminding us in very strong terms.
Governor Pataki, we are watching the Pope make his way to Harlem, this Harlem School. He's pulling up in front of the school now. This is exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah.
The unity, the turnout. I mean, with all the security logistics, and you know what a nightmare this town is trying to get around.
It can be.
Particularly now that you're running for office. I know you've got campaign events and you're caught in the middle of this. But these people, some of them have weathered and been standing in the sun since 8 a.m.
Yes.
to see the Holy Father. And what do you think is the general message that we should take as we watch him, as we follow him through these days?
You know, just a love of each other as God's children. We're all human beings, and you know, the specifics like with immigrants, treat them with respect and humanity. Absolutely, we have to understand that. On climate, we do have an obligation to future generations. But I think the most important message is that we're all in this together. And for all the pettiness, the superficial things that seem to divide us, in the end, they really don't matter in contrast to the future we have together.
Now, I'm going to run to the Pope here, but before I go, I have to ask you, I know you're on the campaign trail. Where's your next stop? How's the campaign going?
Going down to Washington in a couple of days, which is never my favorite place in the world. It needs to be changed. Then up to New Hampshire. I'm very encouraged by the response I get anywhere in America from any sort of crowds. And not kind of like the Popes, but the same idea.
Yeah, well, you'll get there. And you don't even have to worry about doing Mass at Madison Square Garden. Governor Pataki, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And best of luck out there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being with us, Governor. And we are watching the Pope greet the crowds there outside Our Lady of Angels School in East Harlem. A really, as you can see, the love and affection that people have for him. They've been waiting all day. And this is going to be a very intimate visit. First, the Pope will meet with parents and families gathered. It looks like they're in the church hall or school hall. And then, following the meeting with clients and workers from Catholic Charities and the parents, and of course Catholic Charities, as we saw in Washington, D.C., New York Catholic Charities serve so many people in need in the New York area. And this Pope has so emphasized reaching out to the poor, helping those who are in need of care. That to see him here no doubt underscores that message for so many. And we are joined once again by the Papal Posse, Robert Royal, Editor-in-Chief of the CatholicThing.org, and Father Gerald Murray of the Church of the Holy Family. And boy, we've got 3 blockbuster events to bring to you. We're going to bring you this event at Our Lady Queen of Angels in East Harlem. And then a little later, the Papal Parade through Central Park, which is going to be just spectacular. And following that, the Pope will make his way to Madison Square Garden, just behind us here, to say Mass for 20,000 people. That is going to be an exceptional moment. A lot of young people in town, coming into town. Of course, they've already blocked off the streets. I'm looking back at the barricades. What do you see here?
Well, we're seeing here a different Catholic school sent children, representatives, to stand outside of the Our Lady of Angels School. And this is a chance for them. And the Pope is working the rope line, as they say in Washington, and he's having a great time. You can see he's energized, he's smiling. What a thrill for these children. It really is something. I know one of my friends is there with her 2 kids, and she was hoping and praying that the Pope would come up and shake the hands of their kids, so let's see. But certainly he's spending a lot of time here, and that's, as the Pope does things through gestures. He wants to show that affection, that Christ-like love, and to remind everybody that, you know, in the religion of Jesus Christ, we're all brothers and sisters, and we show love and affection, and we worship God together.
Yes, this is him at his finest, this one-on-one with just ordinary people. He goes out of his way to do this. It's what he calls going to the peripheries. These are not people he's seeking votes from. They're just people he wants to bring the presence of God to.
Now, this grade school has been educating children for 120 years in New York, and the Pope is going to be visiting 3rd graders in the school. Now, the class breakdown is interesting. 70% Hispanic, 22% African American, and 22% what they call English learners. 69% of the children in this school qualify for need-based scholarships. And the Pope, I think, is coming here because he wanted to underscore the diversity of the audience, the diversity of the individuals who are being taught at this school and the families being served. This is a parish that they could have closed both the parish and the school down. They shuttered the parish. That's a rather odd thing to do, to close the parish but keep the school open.
Well, you know, sometimes you have more life in your parish school than you do in the parish itself, and it's not, you know, it shouldn't denigrate any of the parishes. Every parish wants to stay open, but a lot of these parishes had insufficient monies to pay for the upkeep and repair, and the diocese is subsidizing so many churches they had to make hard decisions. This school is part of a network of schools which gets many donations from benefactors to help it keep operating. And that really is an act of charity, both religiously and civically, because of course it allows these children a chance to get to know Christ through their education. But civically, it also provides them an outstanding education and an opportunity to advance, you know, to good high schools and colleges. It's a real benefit to the city and to these families.
The Holy Father's really taking his time. He's taking selfies with all these kids, blessing all of their t-shirts and rosaries, touching them on the head. Really spending his time with these children who are gathered outside of the school. They have notes they want to pass to the Pope.
Beautiful.
And, oh, here we go. Look, a selfie, and he's posing for it.
That's a selfie with a rosary in the hand.
Right.
That's
now,
pretty good.
You know, as if he has nowhere to go. You know, he's
Yeah,
kind of just taking his time with the kids.
You notice when you listen to his Spanish, he says cercanía all the time, closeness. He wants to be close to people. He wants to have that kind of personal relationship. And these kids are certainly lapping it up.
No, they're loving this moment. And you hear the chant in the background. If you can't, it's Holy Father, we love you. They keep chanting.
So I'm so happy that many other Catholic schools were able to have representatives here on the sidewalk, because, you know, we'd love to have all of the schools be visited by the Pope, but this gives an opportunity for them to see the Pope and to embrace him, and it's an unforgettable thing for kids. We had our CCD children this morning outside the UN.
Oh, that's right.
But unfortunately, the Pope was traveling in the papal fiat, so we weren't able to shake his hand, but he gave us a warm, he saw us, he heard our cheering, he waved at us. The kids are thrilled. It's something they'll never forget. And it's a reminder what our Catholic Church is, a hierarchical church. The Pope has power from Christ to rule the church, to guide us, to sanctify us, and this is in fulfillment of the mission entrusted to him by the Lord.
Spanish Harlem. Today, the Holy Father now making his way inside this school, Our Lady Queen of Angels, and then he's going to visit a third grade class where they're teaching them to protect the environment. He'll also be doing a little address. There is a speech planned.
You know, I was reflecting today when we were over at the UN that the Catholic Church is probably roughly as big as China. It's hard to know these big, you know, these big formations. China is 1.2, 1.3 billion people. Probably the Catholic Church is around the same. And yet I get the feeling that if the Premier of China were to walk around this neighborhood, he wouldn't get as warm a welcome as the Holy Father would. Nor, I mean, the Holy Father could drop in anywhere, and he just has this this status as the successor of Peter that's like nothing else in the world. It's that concrete embodiment of the church being the mystical body of Christ, prolonged through time, present here among us. We don't belong to a church that's just Jesus and me and Jesus. This is a substantial historical existence. As is often said, the church is the oldest living institution in the world. There's no other institution that has been around as long. It's seen the rise and fall of not only nations, but whole civilizations. And it continues and continues to grow and continue to carry out Christ's mission in the world.
And this is music to my ears as a New Orleanian. Anytime you sing this, when the saints go marching in, we're more than happy to do the second line with you. And the children are singing that to the Holy Father. This is a partnership school here in New York, which is apparently a school management program for schools in distressed areas that really need the help. A way to allow Catholic education to continue there, even though there's not a parish or individuals to keep it funded.
That's right. The diocese had to create ways to keep these schools open, and they've had, since Cardinal Cook's time, the Inner City Scholarship Fund, but they needed something more specific to manage in addition to funding these schools. So the management and funding allow these schools to continue, and you know, Catholic education in the inner city is a very vital apostolate, and it's one of the great things that we do here in New York, and so many other dioceses have the same thing. But again, it's Christ-centered, and this is why when the Pope comes, there's so much joy. He represents Jesus, and you know, that's the biggest question in the minds of these children. Who is Jesus, and what am I supposed to do for him?
So Cardinal Dolan is already waiting inside, and there's the Holy Father making his way into this third grade classroom. They're singing to him. And we had a little news, if you're tuning in late to EWTN. Jim Caviezel, the actor, joined us earlier. He's apparently going to be at the World Meeting of Families, which was unannounced, his participation anyway. So be sure to join us tomorrow. We'll bring you all of that tomorrow evening from the Ben Franklin Parkway. Oh, look at the Pope. Raise the volume a little bit, kids. He's saying through gestures, if not words.
This song, of course, is based on a poem by St. Francis of Assisi. It's roughly based on it,
Right.
but probably chosen precisely because they know how much Pope admires that saint.
Now they're singing the verses in Spanish.
Raise the volume or I'm going to fall asleep. The Holy Father seems to be enjoying this this intimate visit, considering he's been walking into these huge arenas and
I'm a graduate of a parochial school, or a Catholic school, parochial school, excuse me, yeah, my parish school up in New Rochelle, New York, Holy Family, and you know, the thought of the Pope coming to my classroom when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, wow, what a thrill for these kids.
oh, it's picture time. All the kids are turning around. Or they're praying.
En su casa, en la escuela, acerca de la vida de la tierra. Algunos de ellos pueden hablar en español.
The teacher's explaining in Spanish.
And I can't make it out, otherwise I'd translate it
It's
for
just
you.
a little too low.
Yeah.
Sí, es muy importante. Ok, si quiere, hablo con ellos. Si tiene preguntas.
A ver, pregunta.
Ok, you want to explain?
Padre, aquí te presenta Gumbo.
Hello, Holy Father. This is a model of our roof being turned into a green roof, and this.
Okay, stop. You can translate.
Yes.
Okay.
This is a model of our roof being for the vegetables and
Well,
fruit.
I guess they're explaining their school projects to the Pope.
Or asking for help with their homework.
For the vegetables and the flowers, and this is the solar panel.
Oh, it's a solar panel. The kid said this is a solar panel. These are their Save the Planet climate change eco-aware projects. It's hard to make out what they're.
It's muddy.
So the Pope is making his way around, checking everybody's homework.
Yeah.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, this is like, the Pope is substitute teacher. That's quite a substitute teacher.
Maybe that's why they didn't choose religion homework. They would have been embarrassed.
That's right. It's easier. Climate change. You can't be excommunicated for that.
Exactly. Give a wrong answer to the Pope, who knows what's going to happen.
That's right. Not on faith and morals anyway. It's one of the teachers the Pope is meeting, probably the teacher of this third grade classroom.
This neighborhood of East Harlem has become very heavily Mexican in the last couple of decades. My cook at the rectory, for instance, is a wonderful woman from Mexico, and she lives not far from this school.
Oh, really?
And you know, the Mexican faith is so strong, and they love Catholic education, and it's wonderful. I've been doing work for years in parishes with different Hispanic groups, and the Mexicans are very strong now in New York. Cardinal Dolan loves visiting Catholic schools, I should say, also.
Yes, he
and
does.
He's frequently on parish visits, stops in the school to see the children. So this is something he's used to and happy to bring the Pope to one of his schools. This looks like a display on religion class.
Yeah,
with the
this
chalice.
looks like the Eucharist with a little chalice with a paten
And a host.
and a little host on it.
Class on the Holy Eucharist. Wonderful.
So on our table for your Holy Father, we have some symbols of the Holy Eucharist and then some pictures of our students when they get their first Holy Communion.
As the Pope has no doubt noticed, there's no shortage of Spanish speakers, either in the city of New York or in America in general.
That's right. I'll bet that was a bit of a shock to the Pope.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was.
Well, it's such a blessing for the Catholic Church in the United States. The strong faith, the connection to Catholicism, devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary. It really is it's wonderful that we can now have a new generation of Catholics in our inner city schools and out into the suburbs, and bringing the faith alive. It's wonderful.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Rogers, and I'm a fourth grader in St. Paul's School. The host is the body of Christ.
And this is Pope Francis visiting Our Lady Queen of Angels School. It's been open for 120 years, educating generations of Catholics and non-Catholics alike. The Pope is meeting with various teachers here, and he'll also meet with Catholic Charities workers for the New York Archdiocese. This school, no doubt, was chosen because of the diversity a large Hispanic population, a lot of migrants.
And a lot of African Americans. You know, there are quite a few black Catholics in Harlem and a number of parishes that are very strong.
Oh, I see what's happening here. All the children in this room are not from the same school.
They're from
They're from
four different schools were
right.
chosen.
Is that St. Charles Borromeo at
Yes,
one table?
and that's a historically very strong black Catholic parish in Harlem, going back more than 100 years. And it really is it's a wonderful thing that these schools provide this great Catholic education with the help of donors, and really a demanding curriculum which prepares these students well for the demands of top high schools and colleges. I think we got the earth science class here.
Yes. Interactive.
That's quite a bit different than the kind of thing that was available in my parish school. Probably yours too, Father.
I had film strips and we thought we were
well,
advanced.
You had film strips?
Yeah, we had blackboards.
I think in retrospect, most of the nuns who I studied with probably weren't older than 20 years old at the time they were teaching in the grade school. But then again, who knows?
Wow, the Pope's getting interested in computer science here.
Yeah, look, he's doing the whole touch screen. We also thank God for the gift of having you as our Pope.
God
and the
bless
Holy
you,
Father
Pope
blessed him.
Francis.
Oh, sweet.
Beautiful. So you can see the benefit of these donors. They'll be able to have modern equipment. Everything is, you know, in great shape, great order. Yeah, that's one of the great things in New York. Many people, including many non-Catholics, support our schools precisely because they're such a benefit to the community and to the young people of the city.
Well, the Pope mentioned education and the rights of parents and churches to form the youth, both in terms of what we normally think of as education, but also in their spiritual formation. And that simply can't be done unless there are institutions like this that are independent, that are not government-run schools. The government-run schools can be pretty good in terms of conveying information and training, but this is something else. This is the precisely that vision that I think meshes with the environmental message, the human ecology, that human nature, human values are part of the world. And we can't just study the world as if it's what you study when you study science. The world is the creation. And so it has a deep, deep connection with the Creator, with God.
You can describe and measure creation, but you can't explain why it's there in the first place unless you have precisely that religious knowledge which comes through Christ, through the Bible, through the teaching of the Church. And that's why Catholic schools are so important. You know, what's the good of knowing how much something weighs or how big it is if you don't know why it's there?
Pope Francis really taking his time meeting with both the parents, the employees of Catholic charities, the teachers.
And I think these are some of the benefactors who support the schools. That's my guess, and they deserve a lot of our gratitude.
It's one of the great stories of Catholicism in America, the creation of this vast Catholic school system that I think still educates more than 1 million students a year. At the higher end, we have 200 and some odd colleges and Catholic colleges and universities, more than the rest of the world combined. It always shocks foreigners when they come to the United States and they hear that almost every, even medium-sized city you go to, you'll find 1 or 2 Catholic colleges or universities.
Yeah. These are all the donors. It's Senator Gillibrand, isn't it?
Gillibrand, exactly. And both of our New York State senators are there.
That's
Dante
Bill
de
de
Blasio,
Blasio's
his
daughter, son,
Exactly.
meeting the Pope now.
Famous for his afro.
Yes, I noticed.
And this is the Speaker of the City Council.
Boy, everybody got a meet
Well,
and greet in this event.
this is like a civics lesson in addition to a Catholic school.
And maybe they're going
appearance.
back to school because they missed a few things the first time
But
around.
pretty good place to go back. It's the Pope and a Catholic school in Harlem.
Hey,
This is another dimension of America, our philanthropic system. I think you were mentioning this the other day, Father Murray, that as no other country in the world, we have this tax system, and we have a tradition of philanthropy that is just unmatched anywhere. That makes it possible to have these independent institutions.
Pope Cardinal Dolan ran back into the room to tell everybody he's so proud of them. I'm so proud of you all, he said. Oh, look, he's now putting his Zucchetto on Mayor de Blasio's son for a moment there.
Well, and you know,
Chuck
for
Schumer,
our viewers in foreign, it's something to note, the political class, we have big differences with them, but at moments like this, they understand and respect the importance of religion in the life of society.
Right.
And that is a positive value in our country.
Yeah, these are all the representatives here. Certainly the two senators are at odds with the church on issues
They
like
support
life.
abortion, gay marriage. So it's, you know, we fight the good fight, but we also try and love our neighbor.
And we're still seeing images here of Mayor Bill de Blasio now hugging some of the school children. Everybody's getting in on the act. I think this is what's known as reflected glory. Everybody trying to catch a little bit of that papal limelight. And the children really had a great time. They're from 4 different schools. And now the Holy Father's going into an adjoining center, a hall at the parish here. And he is going to have a little address to the children. We are delighted to bring that to you in its entirety. And stay tuned. The much watched and I think anticipated papal procession, the parade through Central Park. This was announced pretty late, but boy, the tickets no tickets were needed.
No, tickets were needed, and they
Ah.
announced that they had, I think, 50,000 tickets, and you could get them by dialing the number 311, which is that's when you dial if there's a sewer overflow on your street. You know, it's the
Wait a minute.
all-purpose number to get a government service. So they used that. It's a quite intelligent decision, and people called in. They reserved a block for the Archdiocese. So we, at our parish, got a note from Cardinal Dolan saying if your parishioners would like to come, they can go
Call
online.
311.
No, it was separate from the 3.
Oh,
to give
okay.
the Catholic school and parishes a little advantage, they reserved a block for us, and you could go online to the Archdiocesan website and sign up for the tickets.
Right.
So some of my parishioners did that, and I'm very happy they'll be there today.
Oh, how great. Unfortunately, they're going to have to, they had to be in place at 11.
Yeah, they had to
this
be in
morning.
place pretty early, and the blessing of the good Lord gave us a very beautiful day today. It's not too hot, and yeah, so it'll be a festive atmosphere in the park.
So we are awaiting this in this hall at Our Lady of Angels in Harlem, an address by Pope Francis to the school children. And if you have questions, you
And
can
these
send
are-
them to papalvisit@ewtn.com, or I'm on Twitter at Raymond Arroyo.
These are also people who work or benefit from the activities of Catholic Charities in the Archdiocese. And the Catholic Charities does multiple social welfare services, educational assistance for people seeking job help and things of this sort. It's a very vital and important part of the work of the Archdiocese, so I'm glad the Pope will have an opportunity to speak to them.
So we're awaiting the start of that, and Cardinal Dolan bounced back into the room, the schoolroom here, to kind of give everybody a quick thank you and a pep talk, but we're still awaiting the Holy Father in the adjoining room. There he is, Pope Francis entering this hall at Our Lady Queen of Angels.
And that is Monsignor Kevin Sullivan. He's the Executive Director of Catholic Charities in the Archdiocese of New York.
Now the Holy Father looks a little tired. I think after working those lines, and he was so engaged with all the children, you can only imagine how wearying it is to meet. And I have to tell you, I would rather give 5 speeches than individually greet people, because it can be a draining thing, and I don't have anywhere near the hands grabbing for me that the Pope does. It can be a draining thing. You know what it is? It's one-on-one attention, and everybody wants to tell their story, and you have to listen. And with the Pope, he's very patiently posing for pictures and signing things and blessing. I mean, it takes a lot of energy to keep this up day after day after day. And he's been doing this since we began in Cuba.
Cuba last Saturday.
Almost
But you know,
a
in his position, I'll say, having observed him in Rome and now here again in America, he has to do a lot of work with papers and meeting with high officials in the Vatican. When he meets ordinary people, I think he feels like he's a little bit back in Argentina, the parish priest that, you know, he exercised that role as a Jesuit in Buenos Aires.
Oh yeah, this is a
little
soccer
demonstration.
a
Pope,
little soccer demonstration.
The Pope is a big soccer fan, and he actually is still a member of the San Lorenzo Sports Club. San Lorenzo is one of the teams in Buenos Aires, and he's a fan. And I guess if you're a member, it helps support the team somehow. His number has actually even been published.
Now posing for another set of pictures with the soccer demonstration.
Santo Padre, bienvenidos.
Holy Father,
Los inmigrantes que trabajan.
we are the workers, we welcome you, the immigrants. Many come from your country. We're proud to receive you in this moment as your family. Thank you for coming to visit us. In the name of these united workers of New York, and they're giving him a hard hat as a gift. This gift is in the name of all the workers who work here in the city of New York. We work day by day. We're putting our little grain of salt, of sand. So, he gives the Pope a hug.
Ah, sweet. This is certainly the way Pope Francis loves to exercise his ministry. By encountering people, seeing them. One does worry that you know, this is sort of choreographed. It's a choreographed multiculturalism, and it doesn't really reflect the.
This is a man from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
More than 1,000 people have offered greetings to welcome you in New York and in the Republic of our Please accept this greeting as our. Thank you.
So each of these groups are giving the Pope something. We had the soccer team. We had the workers.
Yes.
Now we have a man from Africa. And they're all mic'd up, so they're each representative of different groups
Yes,
in
and
the
there's
community.
a large immigration from Africa now in New York City. My last parish, we had many parishioners from West Africa.
It's a small parish after all.
Yes, it is.
This is the Holy Father's very intimate and colorful visit to East Harlem, to a school in East Harlem, Our Lady of Angels.
This is some altar cloths given by this woman from, I'm not sure where, but from Latin America, and it's a altar cloth. And they're thanking the Pope. So asking the Pope to bless that object and bless her.
The Holy Father standing in front of a Catholic Charities Archdiocese of New York backdrop. And you saw some of the clients that Catholic Charities serves.
Catholic Charities has the privilege and responsibility to help the poor, our brothers and sisters, with dignity and compassion. In the name of Jesus. Our service is a benediction from God and gives us life. We want to give you a symbol. So all the efforts of Catholic Charities are done in union with the cross of Christ, and they give this gift, accept it with thanks from us in Catholic Charities.
Tuve hambre y me disteis de comer.
I was thirsty and you gave me to drink.
Moi de soif l'eau, nous bon moi boire.
For I was a stranger and you welcomed me.
我在异乡时，你们收留了我。
For I needed clothes, and you clothed me.
I was sick and you cared for me.
I was in prison and you came to visit me.
Holy Father now addressing this. Dear brothers and sisters,
estoy contento de estar hoy aquí.
I am very happy to be with you today,
junto a toda esta gran familia
with this big family which surrounds you.
Veo a sus maestros, educadores.
I see your teachers, your parents,
Gracias
and your
por
family
recibirme.
members. Thank you for letting me come.
Y les pido perdón especialmente a los maestros
And I ask pardon from your teachers
por robarles unos minutos
for stealing a few minutes of their class time.
Están todos contentos, ya sé.
They're all taking it very well, I know.
Me han contado
They tell me
las lindas características
that one of the nice
de
things
escuela y de este
about this school
es que algunos de sus alumnos,
is that some of its students come from other places,
algunos de ustedes,
even from other countries.
vienen de otros lugares y muchos de otros países.
That is nice,
Y eso es bueno.
even though
Aunque sé que no siempre
I
es
know
fácil
that it's not easy
tener que
to have to move and
trasladarse,
find a new home,
encontrar una nueva casa,
new neighbors,
encontrar nuevos vecinos,
and new friends.
amigos. No es fácil, pero hay que
It is
pensar.
not easy.
Al principio puede ser algo cansador. Muchas veces
At the beginning, it can be
aprender un
hard,
nuevo
right?
idioma, adaptarse a una nueva cultura.
Often you have to learn a new language, adjust to a new
¿Cuántas cosas
culture,
tienen que aprender?
even a new
No
climate.
solo las tareas de la escuela.
There is so much to learn,
tantas cosas.
and not just at school.
Una pelota, como decía vos, muy bien. Lo bueno es que también encontramos nuevos
The good thing is that we also make new friends. We meet people
nuevos amigos que encontramos.
who open doors, who are kind to us. They offer us friendship and
Y
understanding,
nos muestran su ternura,
and they try to
su
help
amistad,
us
su comprensión,
not to feel like
buscan ayudarnos
strangers,
para que no nos
to
sintamos
feel at home.
extraños.
How nice it is to feel that school is a second home. This is not important for you, only important for you, but also for your families.
A sentirnos en casa.
School,
Aunque a veces la imaginación se vuelve a nuestra patria.
Sometimes our imagination goes back to our homeland,
Encontramos gente buena que nos ayuda
but here we find good people who
a
help us
sentirnos en casa.
to feel at home.
Qué lindo es poder sentir la escuela, los lugares de reunión, como una segunda casa. Y
how
esto
nice it
no
is to
solo
feel that
es
school is
importante
a
para
second
ustedes,
home. This
sino
is not
para
only
sus
important
familias.
for you,
De
but
esta
also for
manera,
your families.
La escuela
School
se vuelve una gran familia para
then ends up being one big family,
donde junto a nuestras madres, padres,
one where
abuelos,
together with our
educadores,
mothers and fathers, our
compañeros,
grandparents, our teachers and
aprendemos a
friends,
ayudarnos, a compartir lo bueno de cada uno,
we learn to help
a
one
dar lo
another,
mejor de nosotros,
to share our good
trabajar en
qualities,
equipo, a jugar en
to give the
equipo,
best of ourselves,
que es
to
tan importante,
work as a team, and to
y
pursue
a perseverar
our
en
dreams.
nuestras metas. Bien cerquita de aquí
Very near here
hay una calle muy importante
is a very
con
important
el nombre
street
de una persona,
named after a man who did a
bien por los
lot for
demás.
other people.
y quiero recordarla con ustedes.
I want to talk a little bit about him.
Me refiero al pastor
He was
Martin Luther King.
The Reverend Martin Luther
Un día
King.
dijo, tengo un sueño. Y él soñó que muchos niños, muchas personas
One day he
tuvieran
said,
igualdad
I
de
have a dream.
oportunidades.
His
Él
dream
soñó que muchos niños como
was that
ustedes
many children,
tuvieran
many people
acceso a la
could have
educación.
equal opportunities.
Él soñó que muchos hombres y mujeres
His
como ustedes
dream was that many
pudieran
children like you
llevar la frente bien alta
could get
con
an
la
education
dignidad puede ganarse la vida. Es hermoso tener sueños.
It is
Y es
beautiful to have
hermoso
dreams and be able to
poder
fight for them.
luchar por los sueños. No se lo olviden. Hoy queremos seguir soñando
Today we
y celebramos
want to keep
todas las
dreaming.
oportunidades
We celebrate
que
all the
tanto a
opportunities
ustedes como a nosotros, los
which
grandes,
enable you
nos permiten no
and
perder la esperanza
we adults
en un mundo mejor
not to lose the
y con
hope of a
mayores
better world
posibilidades.
with greater possibilities.
Y tantas personas
I
que
know that one of the
saludados y
dreams
me
of
han
your parents
presentado
and teachers is
también
that
sueñan,
you can grow up
sueñan con esto
and be happy.
y por eso se involucran en este trabajo.
It's always
Se
good to see
involucran en la
children
vida de
smiling.
ustedes para
They get involved.
acompañarlos en este camino. Todos soñamos.
In order to follow this path, many people get
Siempre
involved.
sé que uno de los sueños de sus padres, de sus educadores y de todos los que los ayudan,
I know that one of the
y también
dreams of
del
your parents and
cardenal
teachers
Dolan,
is that you can grow up and be happy. It's always good
es
to
que
see
puedan
children smiling.
crecer y vivir con alegría. Aquí se los ve
Here
sonrientes.
I see you smiling.
Sigan así. Ayuden a
Keep
contagiar
smiling.
la alegría
And help
todas
bring
las
joy
personas que tienen
to
cerca.
everyone you meet.
No siempre es fácil.
It's not always
En todas
easy.
las casas hay problemas,
Everyone
hay
has problems.
situaciones difíciles,
A difficult
hay
situation.
enfermedades,
There's sickness.
pero no dejen de soñar
But don't stop dreaming
con que puedan vivir con alegría.
so that you can live with
Todos
happiness.
ustedes, los que están acá, chicos y grandes, tienen derecho a soñar. Y me alegra mucho
Dear
que
children,
puedan
you have a right to dream, and I'm very
en la
happy
escuela,
that here in this
sea
school,
aquí,
in your
en sus
friends
amigos, en sus maestros,
and your
en
teachers,
todos los que se acercan a ayudar,
you can
ese
find the
apoyo
support you
necesario
need.
para poder hacerlo. Donde hay sueños,
Wherever
donde
there
hay
are
alegría,
dreams, there is joy.
ahí siempre
Jesus is
está
always
Jesús.
present.
Siempre. En cambio, ¿quién es el que siembra tristeza? El que
On the other hand, who is the
siembra
one who sows sadness
desconfianza, el que siembra envidia,
and distrust
el que
and
siembra
envy?
los malos deseos? ¿Cómo
and
se
puts-
llama?
Who is the one who sows
El
bad
diablo.
desires? How does he? What's he named?
El
What's his
diablo.
name? The devil.
El
The
diablo
devil.
siempre siembra tristeza.
The devil is
porque
always
no nos
sowing
quiere alegre,
unhappiness. He doesn't want us to be
quiere
happy.
soñar.
He doesn't want us dreaming.
Donde hay alegría está siempre Jesús.
Because
The-
Jesus is joy.
Jesús es alegría.
And he
Jesus
wants to help us to
quiere
feel that
ayudarnos
joy
a que esa alegría permanezca
every day of our lives.
Antes de irme,
Before going,
quisiera
Ajá.
dejarles
I want to give you some homework.
Homework.
¿Puede ser?
Can I?
Es un pedido sencillo, pero muy
It
importante.
is just a little request,
No
but a
se
very
olviden
important
de
one.
rezar por mí,
Please don't forget to
para que
pray
yo
for
pueda
me
compartir con
so that I can share with
la
many
alegría de
people
Jesús.
the joy of Jesus.
Y recemos también para que muchos puedan
And let us
disfrutar
also pray
de esta alegría
so that many other
con la que
people
tienen ustedes,
can share the
se sienten
joy
acompañados,
like yours.
ayudados,
You're,
aconsejados,
that you can feel yourself well
que
accompanied,
haya
assisted
problemas, pero estáis paz
with
en
all
el
your
corazón
problems.
de que Jesús nunca abandona.
Jesus never
Que Dios los
abandons us.
bendiga a cada, todos y a cada uno.
May God bless
Que
you
la Virgen los cuide.
and can the Virgin Mary
Gracias.
protect you. Thank you.
Well, that was certainly I think, the most fun the Pope's had on this trip. He got to play on a smart board. He took a bunch of selfies with the kids from the school. He offered his own little catechism reflection.
¿Y no saben cantar algo?
Can I tell you something?
A ver, ¿quién es el más cara dura? A ver.
Who's the one who's the boldest?
Serenading the boat.
Sounds like an African language.
Mm-hmm. And he delights in this.
Gracias. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sí. Todos juntos. Bueno, una canción y después rezamos todos juntos el Padre Nuestro.
Let's all pray together the Our Father.
Cantar.
Desde la loma de Besuch que Dios amanece igual. Y el Padre nuestro, repito, que en el cielo y en la tierra Dios haga su voluntad.
Gracias. Y ahora rezamos. ¿Sí?
The Holy Father was really touched by these songs. And again, this is also an expression of the universality of the church, where you have all the church singing and praising in various languages and cultures. And
all together,
el Padre Nuestro.
Let us pray the Our Father.
Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino. Hágase tu voluntad en la tierra. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día. Perdona nuestras ofensas, como también nosotros perdonamos a los que nos ofenden. No nos dejes caer en la tentación y líbranos del mal. Bendiga Dios Todopoderoso, Padre, el Hijo y el Espíritu Santo. Amén. Y recen por mí.
Pray for me.
Don't forget the homework.
I get the feeling that if he didn't have other places to be tonight, he could be there pretty much till it's time to go to bed.
Right.
And maybe we try to keep him entertained and vice versa.
No, he really was enjoying this visit, every step of it, from meeting the children to being serenaded, playing soccer, goalie.
They say he wasn't very good a soccer player himself when he was young, but he loved the game. He's got that one lung that's only partial because of illness he had when he was younger, so it cut down his breathing. He just wasn't able to be that kind of athlete. There we go, tango.
Ah, the tango.
He's a big fan of tango as well. And there's so much tango in Buenos Aires that there's an area that they call the La Tangeria. That's for the places you go to dance the tango.
La Tangeria. And the Holy Father making his way out of this East Harlem School, reluctantly, I might add. But there are thousands that await him in Central Park. And then along the street behind us here on 8th Avenue, I know there are crowds beginning to form behind barricades.
And no cars moving.
And no cars moving, which is a rather awkward sight. But that's what happens when they shut down everything around Madison Square Garden. This was really something, a very touching and fun visit.
Yeah, and it's sort of a concrete embodiment of what he's been talking about, of this culture of encounter and dialogue. I mean, many of these people obviously were not in the United States all that long ago, and they come from many different countries, and somehow they end up in this one school organizing a reception for the Holy Father and entertaining him together.
And we should apologize a wee bit for, you've been here, I know some of you have been tweeting and emailing that you've been hearing some background noise. That is, anytime you're on a rooftop in New York and there's construction nearby, a construction site, you're bound to hear some pounding and pinging and banging and flacking, more than I'd like, but I want to apologize to you if you've heard some of that over our microphones. This is EWTN News Live coverage of Pope Francis in East Harlem. All the school children who greeted the Holy Father as he made his way in remained in place because now they want to say goodbye. You are about to see the second coming of Pope Francis. Ah, here he comes. They're starting to applaud. Pope Francis getting back into his vehicle. Pope Francis waving at everybody. Ah, did a peace sign. And from here, the Pope will go, transferred to the Pope-mobile, be driven through Central Park, and make his way near our location at Madison Square Garden, where he will have a mass for about 20,000 people, mostly young people, this evening. Just to show you how important the Pope is and his New York state of mind, he was able to dislocate Billy Joel, who was to play the Garden tonight. They canceled the Joel concert so the Pope could have Mass here. Now that is top billing.
It looks like Cardinal Dolan is riding in the Fiat with the Holy Father.
I didn't see that. You caught something.
He got in on the other side.
There's the Fiat, SV1. I love the police officer applauding. How often do you see that? Well, those are some very happy kids at Our Lady of the Angels School. And they're still waving the papal flags. And we're awaiting the start of the next event, which is the Papal Parade, so billed. And there's the Pope-mobile, or at least I'm seeing some raw footage of the Pope-mobile in Central Park. And we're going to get a bird's eye view. And as I predicted the other day, there is air cover all over New York with the Pope's arrival, particularly here near the west side of Manhattan. And there have been a lot of helicopters over the last hour. And the security presence has been so intense that doesn't surprise any of us. When you've got hundreds of world leaders in town for the UN General Assembly, on top of the Roman Pontiff, security's bound to be dense, and the barricades numerous all over town. Whole parts of avenues are shut down. And even in Central Park, you see this police presence. Of course, the NYPD is well versed in this sort of thing.
Raymond, I was struck when the Pope gave that address to the children that he said, even though I know it is not easy to move and find a new home, new neighbors and new friends, it is not easy. At the beginning can be hard, right? I think he was talking a little bit about himself. As we know, he had already submitted his letter of resignation as Archbishop of Buenos Aires. He had picked out the retirement home where he was going to live. He was kind of a homebody as Archbishop, traveled to Rome only with the frequency required to part of his official duties, but there it is. So he shares that experience of being displaced, we could say, leaving where he is to come. But he has found millions of new friends as Pope. He's very beloved, and he can see that here in the United States. And really, the affection that those children and adults showed to him is a sign of what America's all about, and particularly the American Catholic Church. We do welcome all those who come into our doors with the love of Christ and show them the concern, and that's really what the Catholic school system in New York has done ever since its foundation, welcoming the immigrants, helping to become educated and productive Americans, and most importantly, good Catholics.
And I am told from folks inside Madison Square Garden that performances have already begun. There's a pre-mass show in Madison Square Garden. Harry Connick Jr. and Jennifer Hudson, Kelly O'Hara, the soprano from Broadway, they're already performing.
And there are also confessions being heard. I know they were going to be saying prayers. I think there was going to be a time for Eucharistic adoration. So a good way to prepare, because of security concerns, I know this from my parishioners, they had to get there about 2 p.m. to Madison Square Garden for a 6:30 p.m. Mass.
Guys, you don't have to move. Don't move, please. This camera's live. Thank you.
And we are seeing a shot of Central Park, the Pope Mobile, waiting for one important occupant. Right now, I guess it's just a mobile. We're waiting for the Pope.
And that's on the west side of the park. I think he's going to enter at West 72nd Street, and then the park drive will take him down to 59th Street, Central Park South.
Right.
And from there, he can proceed, I'm not sure with a path, but it's a clear shot down 7th Avenue to Madison Square Garden, if
And
that's
that
what
is
they
the path
take.
he's taking.
Yes,
Yeah.
so,
And so he'll transfer out of his Pope Mobile. According to this, at 5 p.m., and we're already 6 minutes late, the Pope will travel via motorcade through Central Park. And then he proceeds from 72nd Street, as Father said, on Central Park West Drive between 72nd and 60th Street. And people have been in place since 11 a.m. No one was allowed in any later than 3:30. Locked down in the park. And they did a huge security sweep this morning. But again, New York knows how to do this, and this will no doubt also go off without a hitch, as so much of this visit has seamlessly moved. And this is a big operation to move a pope across town, uptown, downtown. Okay. And you realize he was at the bottom of the island today. He was at St. Pat's last night. Then he went up to Harlem. Now he's going down to Midtown, to Grand Square.
and he was at the UN this morning on the east side,
Right.
so he's moved around pretty well.
Yeah, he's almost hit the whole island.
Yep.
Once he joins us for dinner in Hell's Kitchen, we'll be fine. We're going to change it to, I guess, Heaven's Kitchen, Purgatory Kitchen.
When the Pope comes, it's definitely Heaven's Kitchen.
Heaven's Kitchen. Decided. And we're getting a lot of very nice tweets from so many of you thanking us for the coverage. You're watching in Scotland, goodness, everywhere. California and Florida. People are watching from Africa, Germany. Some are listening via radio, Kansas City, Missouri. Here is the papal motorcade at last, and the Pope will transfer to Pope Mobile, and then we'll watch the papal parade. This is EWTN News live coverage of Pope Francis in New York City. We had a kind of fun-filled afternoon with our special guests, and we have more ahead in Philadelphia for you tomorrow, and then Sunday, the last day. And so we've got some other surprises for you. If you weren't with us earlier, maybe we can get our guys to upload those interviews individually, because I know a lot of people are asking for them. The interview with Jim Caviezel and Governor Pataki. Governor Pataki talked about 9/11 and the importance of the Pope's visit there today. Jim Caviezel made a little news in that he announced he's going to be a participant at the World Meeting of Families, which hadn't been announced before.
Now, ordinarily, at this time of the afternoon on the west side of Central Park, it'd be full of joggers, bicyclists, people out for a stroll. Today it's reserved for His Holiness, Pope Francis. And 50,000 people got tickets to come out and see the Pope. Some of my parishioners are out there, so I'm happy that they'll have this beautiful opportunity to see the Holy Father.
The Pope should come more often. He makes the traffic patterns in New York City a lot easier, doesn't he? There's just nothing.
I don't know if
there.
everyone would agree with you who's listening by radio
Well,
in their car right now.
Yeah, but they're not. They're just not the kind of cars around down in Midtown here that you normally see.
Well, I think people took the advice of the mayor to stay home and work from home if possible.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be nice if you could go down the west side of Central Park with a road looking like it does today right there?
He's actually going to go over the finish line of the New York City Marathon.
And I'm going to tweet out a few performances for those of you who have not, Father Murray actually singing Irving Berlin's best. No, I'm coming across a few of these things on Twitter, and it is what's happening at Madison Square Garden now. Sort of the pregame show for this afternoon's papal liturgy, the Mass at Madison Square Garden. Jennifer Hudson performed, as did Kelly O'Hara. So you can look at those. One of them is actually a video, the other's a picture. Just take a peep. You can follow me at Raymond Arroyo on Twitter and send us a question or an email. We're delighted to take your question. Oh, people are calling in. It's like the emergency line. Maybe they called 311. The sewer backed up, Father. That's the best. You can get your tickets to Central Park or your sewer fixed. That's only in New York.
We try to be a full-service city.
I noticed.
One for sewers, best two for the Pope.
I'd like to hear the Spanish translation of that. I always get the press one for Español, two for Inglés. This is EWTN's slightly punchy coverage of Pope Francis, about to get in the Pope Mobile. How long have we been doing this? Since last Saturday, almost 1 week. Tomorrow will be a week.
Yeah, it was our privilege to follow the Holy Father first in Cuba and then
Yes.
in Washington and here in New York. And it's this is a momentous event for the country and especially for our city today in New York.
And here he comes.
Aha. The motorcade continues rolling. This is neat. I am blessed to be part of Pope Francis's New York City mission because of EWTN's live coverage. Even though I'm at work, I can listen and be part of the celebration. Special thanks to Raymond and the Papal Posse for their excellent hosting. Thank you, Pope, with eternal blessings. And Bella sent that. That's a nice note. There are lots like that. People tuning in from all over the country, all over the world. So many nice notes thanking us for the coverage, and it's a privilege to bring it to you. Again, this is a big part of what EWTN exists to do, what Mother Angelica intended it to do, which was create these family reunions. And that's really what this is. It's a moving family reunion where the whole world can view and take part in these papal visits, whether the Pope's in Cuba or as he'll be in November in Africa, or now in New York City and soon in Philadelphia. And you know, it shows you the reach of the church no matter where he goes.
It really is a family. I often preach about that, Raymond, because the Catholic Church should not be viewed as an institution similar to a government or a university or some organization. It's a family, and in the family, all are welcome, all are invited in, and in that spirit of love, and here's Pope Francis in the Pope-mobile.
There he is.
The father of the family has come to visit his children.
The Pope is in the Pope-mobile, as is Cardinal Dolan. And we should have rolling shepherd any moment here. Oh yeah, these helicopters are just hovering. You know, there's a part of me that thinks they might be news copters trying to catch the papal caravan as it makes its way to Madison Square Garden behind us.
Yeah, they're a little high for security.
Yep. But you can see all the security apparatus is already in the street behind us here. And I don't know if you can see it on your screen or not, but, well, you certainly can't. You don't have my vantage. But there are law enforcement officials now getting in place right back here. And what you're seeing in the big box there, which we'll put up momentarily, is the Pope in Central Park. He's in the Pope-mobile. He'll make his way through Central Park. Then he'll transfer, I think, back to the
Fiat, yes.
Yeah. And via Fiat, he'll speed down here to Madison Square Garden, get vested, and begin the Mass, primarily for young people, but it's not exclusively a Mass for the young.
Right, they offered all the parishes of the Archdiocese a limited number of tickets so that parishioners had an opportunity to pray the Mass with the Pope. Our parish got 7 tickets, for instance, and we held a lottery, and other parishes did similar things. There are also the opportunity for all the priests in the Archdiocese to concelebrate the Mass. So that was a very nice thing, so that they could also pray the Mass with the Pope.
And the papal caravan is moving. Again, that tight security perimeter, I have to tell you, I cannot remember ever seeing men walking in that tight a swarm around the Pope-mobile. Usually there's a car at a distance, but not tonight.
Heavy security.
They are on high alert. I mean, it's row after row, and they're walking on each side, and they've got the vehicles on each side. You know, you almost have the feeling. I remember in I guess it was 96, when John Paul II was in Baltimore in the Pope-mobile, going into Oriole Stadium, and my wife actually went inside. I was covering the visit, and I got locked out of the exit or the entrance I was supposed to go in, so I had to walk around the stadium. As I walked around the stadium, there's the Pope-mobile, no one there. I just literally walked into the Pope-mobile, and I look up, there's the Pope. I said hello, he blessed me. We talked for a minute, and I kept walking.
You're like Young Rivera. Hello,
yeah, it was
hello,
like, yeah,
Pope.
hello, Pope, great to see you. It was, you know, so easy. Here, you'd run smack into 12 Secret Service agents, 6 Vatican policemen, and a couple of Swiss guards before you got to the Pope.
You wouldn't stand up for very long if you ran into those guys.
Here's the crowd in Central Park. They've been waiting for hours to see him, and you hear their reaction. This is the papal parade from 72nd Street on the west side. Part of EWTN's live continuing coverage of Pope Francis in New York City. hard to really sense it from this distance. You know, you can't see faces, but you can certainly hear.
And it's a big crowd.
Oh, it's a huge crowd.
Big
It's
huge crowd. I've run that route frequently, and I know there's a lot of space on either side of the pavement, and you can see how many rows of people are filling in to greet the Pope. This is really beautiful.
Mike, stop hitting me. No, don't hit me.
The papal motorcade rolls through Central Park. This was billed as a chance for the Pope to see Central Park. I doubt if he can see much of Central Park with all those people in the way. Wow, those crowds are really thick.
We've got a helicopter hovering over right overhead here, Raymond, and I think that probably is a security or police helicopter. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, that looks like a police helicopter.
Yeah, when the president moves in Washington, you have helicopters flying very low over the city because they have to worry about rooftops and any number of things.
Well, the yelps of delight are going up as the Holy Father makes his way through Central Park through a very dense crowd surrounded by a tight security perimeter. They want no mistakes. And we're getting a lot of lovely tweets, and thank you for sending them. And they are thanking us for the coverage. Veronica from England thanks us for the great coverage of the visit. They've been watching all week. Did the Holy Father have any lunch? I'm worried about him. I do think he had lunch. There was a time to go back to the nunciature right before the visit to the school. He had a little lunch break built in. I want to thank you and the papal posse for the consummate coverage. No other coverage compares from Francis Garner. That's sweet. It really does allow people to be there, many of them saying, you know, but for this, we'd really have no way of being there. People are asking, is Jennifer Hudson Catholic? Not all the performers who appear are Catholic. You know, who appear at this, you know, the performances before the Mass. I think that's really just to keep the crowd occupied before the Mass starts. Harry Connick Jr., of course, he's Catholic. He was performing just moments ago. So some of the performers are, some aren't.
Well, that crowd is really thick. I mean, there are lots and lots of people.
Yeah, I mean, I can barely
Beautiful,
count.
beautiful.
It goes deep into the park.
Yes, on both sides of the street.
Certainly more than 50,000 people.
Well, those are the number of tickets that were announced to be given out, and unless they increased it, but it's about a 10-block distance from 72nd down to 59th. And yeah, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. That's great. I'm glad the Pope is able to see the affection and the warmth of all the faithful, and I'm sure there are many non-Catholics who also wanted to greet the Pope who came out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, we've been saying this throughout our coverage. There is something unique, and after almost 20 years of covering popes and watching closely the reaction. Pope Francis is more than the Bishop of Rome, more than a pope in the secular context. I don't mean that he's any more important than any other pope, but he does have a secular resonance and a celebrity that perhaps other popes didn't enjoy. And that has allowed him access to airwaves and publications and public spaces that, I mean, just for instance, Rolling Stone would never put Benedict XVI on the cover for whatever reason. Probably because he was perceived as representing something that they were hostile to. Pope Francis is perceived in a different way. The perception is different. I'm not sure whether the message is, or the core doctrine certainly is, but it's very interesting the way that the wider world is seeing him and translating this message for themselves. Is this by design? Is he just a canny Jesuit? Or is this the result of a buoyant personality that has sort of captured the imagination of people, made them feel good?
And one thing I think is certainly true is that the Pope represents a force of morality and a supernatural vision, that there's more to this world than what we see, and that the rules of right and wrong are not man-made, that they are transmitted to us from the higher power, and we know who that higher power is. We believe in God Almighty, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, but there are many people who, they go through life kind of wandering, and when they read about a Pope, I mean, how many powerful men decide they want to live in a small two-room, essentially hotel setting? They're not interested in money, they're not interested in fame, they're interested in presenting the message. In the view of the world, Jesus Christ is just a historical figure who taught some very nice things, but is not really the leader of anything. We know that he is. He's the leader of the Catholic Church. The world depends on the Catholic Church to know God's will. But so people hear what the Pope says, and I think it makes an impression on them. I never underestimate, Raymond, that people always have the question, what happens to me when I die? And you cannot find the answer to that question in very many places. In fact, the only real answer you can find is in the Catholic Church, which transmits the message of Jesus, I am the resurrection and the life.
I am still struck, and I hope you can see it more clearly than I even, the density and depth of this crowd. I thought there'd be maybe 5 people deep along the barricades. This goes deep into the park on all sides. It seems security sort of bunched everybody together in one small area.
That was the idea,
park.
to get this in this confined area. But you know, 50,000 people in a 10-block areas, that's a lot of people. And of course, everybody wants to press forward to get as close as they can.
But they're keeping them well back. One of the things that when I was writing that history of the Swiss Guard that used to scare me to death was when the Pope moves around Rome, the Italian police put up all sorts of yellow tape, stay behind this tape, but Italians being Italians, they don't observe it, and they press right up to the papal car. And just about anything can happen when you have that large a crowd that close to a major figure like a pope or a president. Here they're well back. It's still, well, they still look quite nervous.
Well, I think the reason they're nervous, a big chunk of this is, remember, I think the reason we're seeing them pressed into the car and not allowing the people closer is because you don't have the Pope in the bulletproof room that the last 2 popes conceded to, given the security concerns in a densely populated place with aerial views like New York. The Pope Francis's preference is to have this open backed car, in this case a Wrangler Jeep, and it is so he's easily seen and he can see the people. My guess is he never anticipated that he'd be quite this far away from them. But it's the
trade-off.
That's the trade-off. That's the compromise.
And it's a courageous choice because, as we know, in the case of John Paul II, it took only one Turkish gunman to almost kill him.
Yeah. Now the Pope making his way back to the Fiat. That's it. That's the end of the papal parade. Now begins the transition to Madison Square Garden. Now it's just a mobile. No more Pope.
And we're seeing here,
these helicopters
Raymond,
are everywhere.
a line of helicopters, probably along the route that he's going to take from the
Correct.
park.
He's going to come up 7th Avenue. He's going to shoot up 7th Avenue through Times Square to get here, and right into the garden. Of course, Madison Square Garden, the scene of so many prize bouts, return performances,
The
Streisand
Knicks,
and
the
Madonna.
Rangers, all the great sports events that have happened there.
That's right.
But remember, Pope John Paul II said Mass at Madison Square Garden.
He did indeed in 1979. And in fact, I was reading a bit of that address earlier today, and I thought we'd quote a little bit of it to you because it was thought it'd just be an interesting side note to our coverage.
Well, that's when the Pope was hearing that famous chant, JP2, we love you.
Right.
And he said, JP2, he loves you, back to the crowd. He had a very playful sense.
He did indeed.
He too touched crowds, but in a very different way, I think, than Francis.
You know, I'm not so sure it was totally different. In fact, I see a lot of similarities. In many ways, John Paul being the actor, the man who understood the power of gestures and voice, he was really a performer in those moments and a powerful witness and prophet. Francis reminds me much more of John the 23rd, a kind of buoyant, sweet, lovable, avuncular figure. Whereas John Paul really, he knew how to turn on that charisma. It was natural to him, but he used it to propel that message forward, and the great prophetic witness that he became, and even into his tragic suffering at the end, which only made it more compelling and impossible to turn away from.
Czesław Miłosz, who was a Nobel Prize winner, a native of Poland, like the Holy Father, he won the Nobel Prize for Literature. He's a great poet, lived in the United States for many years. Once said about John Paul II that of all the world leaders of his time, he alone, John Paul II alone, could have been one of Shakespeare's kings. That there was that regalness about him. There was a kind of a obvious historical importance to him. And coming from Miłosz, who I regard as one of the great writers of the 20th century, I think that's a very important insight.
I'll say. No, he certainly had that in him. He had that in him. Well, my acting teacher, Stella Adler, many years ago used to say, you have to be trained to be an aristocrat so you can rise up to play a king, or degrade yourself to play a peasant. and John Paul, I thought, had all of those qualities in him. He was earthy, and yet there was something regal and majestic about him, even into his old age and into his frailty. When the Parkinson's greatly limited his ability to communicate, he was still so compelling and powerful. And I think each pope brings their own particular flavor to the papacy, and we're seeing it today with Pope Francis. It's that common touch, it's that feel good. He said it today in this talk, which on the surface is very simple, and it is, and we've been hearing these themes again and again, but it's a simple message, but a powerful one. Jesus is joy. He wants to help us to feel that joy every day in our lives, and he wants you to dream, and I want you to dream. And so that's the kind of encouraging, one-on-one, felt papacy that I think he seeks to be a part of and to share with the world.
Having read some biographies of Pope Francis and knowing his style when he was a superior at the Jesuit seminary in Buenos Aires, he would bring the seminarians out into the poor neighborhoods so they could teach catechism and visit families, and he's very much a people's pope in the sense that he likes the work of the priest, which involves getting to know the flock. And there's a lot of consolation that comes to, speaking as a parish priest myself, visiting the sick and teaching catechism to children, because you understand this is what Jesus himself did when he walked through the Holy Land, when he met with people. And
And that was his alternative to liberation theology. He always used to say that the Marxists, the intellectuals, they thought that they were speaking for the people, and he would say, oh, no, that's not what the people want. What the people want is the kind of thing that he does. They want the Holy Father, to be a spiritual father, to bring that spiritual message that Father Murray keeps talking about, and to be close to them in a way that they can understand. It's not going to be high theology. It's going to be the kind of Christianity that is faithful, that respects all the truths of Christianity, but it's the Christianity that touches statues, that enters into a dialogue.
And
with,
it's lived. It's a lived faith.
It's a family kind of faith.
And we are going to see more of that lived faith after we take a short break. When we return, the Holy Father's Mass from Madison Square Garden. He's playing the garden. We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us.